Are you still stuck with nagging groin pain weeks or even months after you initially had the pain or injury? People are probably telling you to rest it, to just wait till it magically heals, or to even stretch it. What if I told you that these strategies are what's actually keeping it lingering and keeping your groin pain from resolving for good? I'm Neil Toussaint, a physical therapist with TrickStrong.com, where we help athletes fix pain, rebuild their strength, and move the way that they want. So after helping hundreds of athletes really recover from these stubborn types of injuries, such as groin strains, today we're gonna help you get to the root cause of this issue and fix it for good from home. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to safely self-test your groin so that you know the severity of your injury. You're gonna know the common rehab mistakes and pitfalls that people are constantly making. You're gonna be able to rebuild your strength without any flare-ups. You're going to know our exact phased approach, just as we use on the TrickStrong RX app for martial artists, trickers, and other movers that are aggressively using their inner thigh and groin muscles. And we're gonna show you a simple at-home checkpoint so that you know when you're ready to get back to full activity without setbacks. The first mistake people are commonly making is resting too much. Rest might be important in the first few days, especially with severe injuries, but if you don't progressively load that tissue, pretty much immediately, you're gonna have some setbacks. It's because we're gonna lose load tolerance in that tissue, so over time it's going to get weaker and weaker. It becomes more sensitive and reactive to movement as it becomes weaker, and then also fear is gonna set in, so you're not gonna be able to move as much through a willingness standpoint or a physical standpoint. So over time, you're gonna self-select and almost avoid using it more and more until it gets very weak and fragile. But this next mistake is probably gonna be even more common. Mistake number 2 is gonna be stretching too early or too aggressively. See this all the time because when you have groin pain or a groin strain, you're going to feel that it is pretty tight. And that tightness is a protective mechanism, a neurological mechanism, so that the muscles are not extending past their limit so that they can actually heal. Because what's happened in a groin strain, for example, is that there's gonna be some micro or maybe even some macro tears depending on the severity of the injury. So the body wants to scar down and to heal that tissue before it loads it. What you're doing very early on is irritating it and not allowing it to scar down. So that's why you're gonna have that cycle of pain that keeps reigniting because it's pain, tightness, and then you try to stretch it and that's gonna lead to more pain and keep you in that initial cycle of healing. And even if you avoid stretching early on, this last mistake is probably going to undo your progress completely if you're making it. Most people go right from rest, okay, I'm out of pain, straight back into training. And that's probably gonna be the worst mistake that you can make because if you're not progressively loading the tendons and muscles, they're not going to be ready for that next activity. They adapt through progressive overload. If there's no progression, then they're gonna be overloaded and there's gonna be issues. So how do you avoid these mistakes and get out of pain? We're gonna have to rebuild it the right way, progressively, and of course we're gonna show you those strategies in this video. Let's do this quick self-test before we move forward. We're gonna call it the adductor squeeze, and basically you're gonna put either 2 fists between your legs or a foam roller between your legs, and you're gonna squeeze it, and you're gonna ramp up that tension. So you're gonna go from 0 to 10, 20, 30%, all the way up to as hard as you can go without pain. You wanna note how hard you can go before you're experiencing pain. If you're experiencing pain with a very light push, or you're not able to push at all, then you're on the more severe side, and you're probably gonna start with one of the first progressions that we're gonna go over. If you're able to push up to 50% and then you're starting to feel some pain, maybe up to a 3 to 5 out of 10, then you could probably go to the more moderate progressions. And then if you're able to push harder than that, maybe up to 70 or 90% without much pain, then you're gonna be able to do some of the more advanced progressions in this video. And drop a comment below if you've ever flared up trying to come back from this injury too soon. Because if you don't know exactly where you're at in this recovery, then that is gonna be pretty likely. So that's why we do this first. This is exactly how we're gonna start rebuilding our groin. So first, we're gonna use Adductor Isometrics against the wall, and you can push for up to 10 seconds and do to 5 to 10 reps. This is really gonna help rebuild the muscles without much load or tension. You can ramp up to the level that you're able to do. The next progression, if you're able to do that pretty hard, then we would go to the banded adduction. So you're gonna take a light band, and of course you progress it to a heavier band, and that is really going to help now start to strengthen it through a full range of motion. And as you can see, we can even do 3 directions, not only directly to the side, but to the front of our leg and to the back of our leg. And what that's gonna do is gonna get different fibers of our adductors. So you might find that certain movements might trigger your issue more, and you actually want to train those areas more because that is where the injury is. And early on, we could even add a banded hip mobilization if your hip is feeling tight, because sometimes when we're not able to move our hip joint, then the joint itself gets tight and that restricts our movement even more and it causes more pain. So what we do with the banded hip mobilization is the band is, if this is the ball and this is the socket of our hip, the band is going to go right on the ball of the hip, and the band actually pulls away from your hip. So that's going to allow traction. It's going to allow space to occur in the hip joint. So you're going to put the band really high up on the crease, and you're going to walk away from the band. You're going to go onto all fours, and you're going to rock back and forth. You're going to need a very heavy band for this, like a power band or a pull-up assist band, in order to get the amount of force you need for this. And of course, you're going to need an anchor that allows you to keep that band stable while you pull. So you're just going to go back and forth in this child pose like we're showing, and that's really going to help mobilize the hip. These first three are really good early on if you have a more severe issue or you just want to start right from the beginning. If you're able to handle a little bit of load, then we can go next to the sliders. So the first one I like to do is in all fours, and this is a really good one because not only can we go linear, but we can go in a 360 range of motion as well. So we can sweep from front to back, and again, the adductors, depending on exactly where your issue is, we can target it directly by searching for that pain or discomfort or tightness and pushing into the ground. And that's why this is a little bit different than just stretching, because we're actually using muscular force in order to stabilize the issue, and we're building strength through our range of motion. So you're always pushing down with these slider exercises. We're pushing directly into the ground with the instep or the side of your foot, and that's going to allow you to load the adductors in a way that is not going to be painful, because if you're going into this exercise, you're going to try to avoid any high degree of pain, and that means that you're able to actually load that tissue without irritating it. So this next progression is really going to kick it up a notch and allow you to get a lot more strength and stability in your adductor. And the reason I like the Copenhagen Progression is because we're actually incorporating core stability into this as well. That's a missing piece in a lot of people's groin rehab, is that they're not integrating the core into the rehab. They're only isolating the groin. So if you incorporate the core, that's going to be very important, because the adductors actually support the core. And if we're not using it in conjunction with the rest of your body, then we're not going to be as coordinated, we're not going to be as stable, so that when we go to our activities, we're not going to be able to have that skill and that dynamic stability in order to safely progress. So the Copenhagen plank is going to start with the top leg. So in a side plank, when both legs are on the ground, this is a top leg side plank, so an adductor plank. We're going to be pushing into the ground just like our adductor sliders, and we're going to progress in this way. First, we can, if you're really sensitive, you can actually do it with a block. So that means that you're not even going to be horizontal to the ground, and that's going to allow you to start softer. But then once you're ready to go into the real Copenhagen plank, you're going to be on the ground, and you can use your bottom leg for assistance, and you're going to push with the top leg and get up into that full plank. You're going to hold for 10 seconds, and we can do 5 to 10 reps of this per day. Once you're ready, you're going to be able to put enough force into that top leg so that you don't need the bottom leg anymore, and then now you can lift. If you're able to do that, then you can do elevated plank holds. So now you're going to put your leg on a bench, and because now you're fully in line with gravity, you're going to be accepting more of your weight through your adductor. So if you're able to do that, then get up to that 5 to 10 reps of 10 seconds before progressing to this final version, which is the dynamic Copenhagen plank, where we're moving through a range of motion and we're doing lifts throughout. I really love this one. Again, it's going to be that dynamic stability that we're going to need in athletics and in movement. This next progression is really going to address our single leg strength and stability, which the adductors really provide a lot of help in. Whenever we're on one leg, our adductors have to stabilize the hip in order for us to stand there. So if we use something like a cone tap, that's going to be a really good way to functionally train the adductors in the way that they're going to be used. So the cone taps can start linearly, so it's like a single leg deadlift, and you're going to just tap in front of you and then come back up. But then once you get more advanced, you can go in 3 directions. And again, we like to do that because the muscles are not in just one line, they're in multiple lines. So you want to train in a 360, 3D range of motion so that you're prepared for any type of load. So we're going to go to the outer 45 and the inner 45 and to the front, and that would be 1 rep. we can try 3 sets of 3 reps to start. So that would be 3 sets of 9 touches per set. And this is a lot harder than it looks. So stay at this progression as long as you need to. And then the last one we're gonna be giving you guys today is the 3D Kickstand RDL, which is basically the same thing, but now we're gonna be using weight, and we're gonna use our back leg for a little bit of support in balance. Because we're using the weight, now we're gonna shift our focus more towards building a lot of strength in not only the adductors, but the hamstrings and the posterior chain, which is gonna help support the adductor as well. So by putting that back leg there, now we can lift more and we can actually put more strength back into the adductor so that we can get ready for the next phase of our rehab. If you're following these progressions correctly, you shouldn't really have any flare-ups or setbacks, and you should be able to get your full dynamic strength back without any issues. And another way I would recommend to use these exercises is to heed the 24-hour rule, which states that nothing should hurt worse than the day before. Of course, you're gonna be sore muscularly, but we don't want any increased pain the next day after your exercises. That means that whatever you did the day before is too much and you need to scale it back a little bit. And when you're able to do the adductor squeeze without any pain, you're able to do the adductor sliders with a good range of motion equal to the other side, and you're able to do the Copenhagen planks to their fullest progression without any pain or setbacks, then you know that you're in a good position to start rebuilding your athletic potential. And that would include going towards kicking, running, jumping, and all the things that you want to do. Being able to do all this would indicate that you're ready to get back to things, but of course you want to progress gradually back to your activity. And now you know why your groin pain lingers, how to test your readiness to return, how to rebuild a solid foundation step by step, taking the guesswork out of your rehab and recovery, and finally, how to get back to training and moving the way you want. And if you need more guidance with this, our groin rehab program takes you from injury all the way back up to elite performance or whatever level you're needing in order to do the activities you love. And that's gonna be kicking, running, jumping. It gets pretty high level, so definitely check that out. It's complete with sets, reps, progressions, and guidelines for your recovery. It's all inside the TrickStrong RX app. If you found this helpful, you're just getting started. The next step is building full body resilience from the ground up for your ankles, knees, and hips. All right, train hard, stay safe, and we'll see you soon for the next one.